If you're thinking about moving to Tennessee, you've probably watched a few videos already. Some make it sound like Tennessee is still cheap, quiet, and untouched. Others make it sound overcrowded, unaffordable, and falling apart. The truth is, it's neither. Tennessee has changed, and if you're planning a move in 2026, you need the current realistic information, not hype and not fear. So, in this video, I'm walking you through 26 things you actually need to know before moving to Tennessee. So, let's get to it. Hi, I'm Patricia Machakian, and I help people find the right home and community right here in Middle Tennessee. Number one, population growth is uneven. One of the most important things to understand before moving to Tennessee is that growth is not happening the same way everywhere. A lot of people hear everyone's moving to Tennessee and assume that the whole state is booming, but that's not really the case. Most of the growth is happening in specific areas like Middle Tennessee, Knoxville, and certain suburbs near major job centers. At the same time, there are many parts of the states that are still staying about the same or even slowing down. And that difference matters. Where growth is happening, you'll see more new homes, more traffic, faster changes. Where it's not, life is often quieter, slower, and very different day to day. So instead of asking, is Tennessee growing? A better question to ask is, what part of Tennessee fits what I'm looking for? Because where you choose to land makes all the difference. 2, Tennessee isn't cheap anymore, it's comparison based. This is really important mindset shift for a lot of people. Tennessee is not a cheap state anymore. What it is now is a comparison-based state. If you're moving from places like California, New Jersey, or parts of Florida, Tennessee can still feel very affordable. But if you're coming from a smaller town or a lower cost area, it might not feel that way at all. Affordability in Tennessee today depends a lot on where you're coming from and exactly where you choose to live here. 2 families can move to Tennessee at the same time, and one may feel like their expenses dropped while the other feels more stretched. That's why it's so important to compare your current lifestyle to a specific city or county you're looking at, not just to Tennessee as a whole. 3, entry-level pricing is tighter than most people expect. Another thing that catches people off guard is where the pressure really is in the housing market. Most of the competition is not at the top, it's at the entry level, the starter homes. Lower price ranges attracts first-time homebuyers, relocations, investors, and downsizers all at the same time. That means those homes move faster, they receive more offers, and they leave less room for hesitation. I see people all the time who assume the higher prices mean harder competition. But in many parts of Tennessee, the most competitive space is usually at the bottom of the market. So understanding that early helps people set better expectations and make smarter decisions when they start touring homes. 4, remote work changed where people live. One of the biggest things that reshaped Tennessee is remote work. It didn't just change where people work, it changed where people are willing to live. Places that used to feel too far out are now very much on the table. Smaller towns, outlying suburbs, even semi-rural areas. But here's the part that surprises a lot of people. Those areas aren't automatically cheap anymore. What matters now isn't just how far you are away from a city, it's whether the internet is reliable, whether the roads are decent, whether there are services, growth, and real community around you. Lifestyle fit matters more than the commute distance ever did. So when you're looking at a map, don't just zoom in on how close something is, zoom out, look at the infrastructure. Look at how the area is growing and look at how people are actually living day to day, because that would tell you more than mileage ever will. 5, reliability has become a major housing factor. This connects directly to remote work, but it deserves its own mention. Internet availability is not equal across Tennessee. Urban and suburban services is usually strong and reliable, but in rural areas, quality can change from street to street. Some locations have excellent fiber service, others struggle with consistency. And this has become one of the most important practical factors when choosing where to live. Because today, internet access doesn't just affect entertainment, It affects work, it affects your income, education, and long-term flexibility. So it's something that should always be verified before you choose a location. Now that you understand the big shifts happening across Tennessee, let's talk a little bit more about people, what they're actually shocked about once they start looking at homes, because this is where expectations and reality really start to separate. Number 6, one thing that surprises a lot of buyers is how different the housing options look depending on where you are in Tennessee. In some areas, you'll scroll through pages and pages of homes. In other places, there might be only a handful to choose from. In fast-growing parts of the state, you'll usually see steady activity, new listings, price changes, new construction popping up all the time. But in landlocked towns, rural areas, or well-established communities, homes don't turn over as often. And when something does hit the market, it can go quickly. This matters because inventory changes everything: how long your searches take, how competitive you need to be, and how flexible your expectations have to stay. So two people can both say they're house hunting in Tennessee and be living in two completely different market realities. 7, new construction dominates growth areas. In many parts of Tennessee, especially around Middle Tennessee and high-growth suburbs, new construction isn't just an option. It's the main option. A huge amount of available housing is being built right now, not resold, which means a lot of buyers end up in communities that didn't exist a few years ago. That brings benefits, modern layouts, warranties, energy efficiency, and customization. But it also brings very different rules, timelines, and pricing strategies than resale homes. Understanding that early helps buyers avoid frustration and makes cleaner decisions. Builders control pricing, incentives, and timelines. When new construction dominates the market, builders set the tone. They control the base pricing, they control the incentives, they control which homes are released and when. That means the deal is often not the list price, but in low-cost closing cost rate programs, upgrades are structured. It also means timelines can shift. Bills can move fast or they can stretch. So buying new construction in Tennessee is less about negotiating like a traditional real estate and more about strategy, timing, and guidance. 9, representation matters more than people expect. This is one of those misunderstood parts of moving to Tennessee. In heavy new construction markets, representation matters even more than it does in resale. Builders have their own contracts, their own timelines, and their own sales teams. Their job is to represent the builder. Your representation is what protects you and your interests and helps you compare communities, negotiate incentives, track construction, and catch issues early. Especially for out-of-state buyers, this support is not a luxury, it's protection. 10, appliances are often not guaranteed. This one really catches people off guard. In many Tennessee homes, especially new construction, major appliances are not automatically included. Refrigerators, washers, dryers, they may not convey unless specifically written into the contract. Out-of-state buyers often assume they come standard because that's normal in their regions. Here, it varies. So part of the smart buying process is clarifying what actually stays, what doesn't, and what needs to be negotiated before you ever go to closing. 11, HOAs are very common in growth areas. If you're moving into or near a growing suburb, chances are high that you'll be looking at an HOA community, especially in new construction. These can range from light maintenance agreements to very structured communities with detailed rules, amenities, and fees. Some people love them, some people really don't. What matters is understanding what you're agreeing to before you fall in love with the house, because HOAs affect how you use your home, how the neighborhood evolves, and what your long-term costs look like. 12, property taxes are low, but reassessments matter. Tennessee is known for having relatively low property taxes, and compared to many states, that's true. But what people don't always realize is how reassessments work. When a home sells or a new build is completed, the assessed value can reset, which means your taxes may not reflect what the previous owner paid or what an empty lot was taxed at. So smart budgeting in Tennessee is based on projected assessments, not history. That's one of the easiest places for new homeowners to be surprised. At this point, you can probably already see a pattern. Tennessee housing is not one experience. It depends heavily on region, development patterns, and how prepared you are before you start. Next, let's shift into the physical side of living here, the land, the soil, and the infrastructure that quietly shape a lot of everyday realities. Number 13, basements are far less common than many people expect. If you're moving from Midwest or the Northeast, this one often feels strange. Basements are not standard in most parts of Tennessee, and the reason is simple: limestone. Much of the state sits on limestone and rocky soil, which makes excavation expensive, complicated, and in some areas impractical. So instead of basements, you'll see more slab foundations and crawl spaces. This impacts storage, storm planning, renovations, and even resale expectations. So when people move here hoping for a big finished basement, they're often surprised by how rare they actually are. 14, storm shelters and safe rooms look different here because basements aren't common. Storm protection looks different too. Some homes have interior safe rooms, some neighborhoods have community shelters, some buyers choose to add an above ground or garage installed storm shelters. Tornadoes do happen in Tennessee, and storm preparation is something residents take seriously, but it's handled differently than in places where basements are built into every home. Understanding that before you buy helps you choose the right floor plan, the right location, and the right long-term setup. 15, termites are normal and ongoing prevention matters. This is one of those topics that doesn't sound exciting, but it protects your equity. Termites are normal in Tennessee. They're a part of living in a warm, humid climate. This doesn't mean every home has termites, but it does mean termite bonds, routine inspections, and prevention plans are standard. Homes here are built with this in mind, and buyers should be too. Radon exists in pockets and testing matters. Another quiet but important reality is radon. Tennessee has pockets of elevated radon levels depending on the county and soil composition. The good news is radon is easy to test for and mitigation is very effective. Many sellers already test, and when it's found, mitigation is often negotiated. But it's something buyers should always take seriously, not too carefully, just responsibly, because this is one of those behind-the-walls issues you only catch if you check for it. 17. Growth is straining infrastructure in certain regions. Tennessee is growing, but growth isn't evenly matched with infrastructure everywhere. In some fast-growing counties, roads, utilities, schools, and services are under pressure. You'll see road expansions, utility upgrades, new schools, but progress takes time. And that means some communities experience congestion, construction, and delays before improvements catch up. This is why it's so important to understand not just where a home is, but where the area is in its growth cycle. 18. Road conditions and county services vary widely. One of the biggest differences new residents notice is how much responsibility falls to the county level. Road quality, maintenance schedules, snow response, drainage, these things can quickly change when you cross county lines. Some areas invest heavily, others move slower, so two towns that are only 20 minutes apart can feel very different when it comes to daily driving, storm response, and long-term infrastructure planning. It's not good or bad, it's local, and knowing that helps people choose the right fit. So when people ask, what are homes like in Tennessee? The answer is they're shaped by the land, the soil, the weather, and how fast the area is changing. Next, let's get into everyday side of life here. Driving, utilities, internet, and the things you feel every single week once you actually live in Tennessee. 19. Tennessee is a driving state. For most people, Tennessee is not a walk everywhere kind of place. Outside of a few small urban pockets, daily life here is very car dependent. Groceries, work, school, medical care, activities, you're going to drive. You're going to need a car. Even in cities, most neighborhoods are spread out. So when people move here expecting public transportation to replace their car, that usually doesn't happen. Choosing where you live means thinking seriously about drive times, not just distance on the map. 20. Some commutes rank among the worst in the country. And while Tennessee has a lot of space, some corridors are extremely congested. Nashville to Murfreesboro, parts of Knoxville, I-24, I-40, I-65 corridors. At certain times of the day, these routes consistently show up on national condition lists. This is why many long-term residents structure their housing choices around commute avoidance. Living closer to work, working remotely, or choosing communities where daily life doesn't require crossing major metro corridors. 21. EV and hybrid vehicle fees are permanent. This one surprises a lot of people. Tennessee does not use toll roads, so the state relies heavily on gas tax and registration fees to fund infrastructure. Because of that, electric and hybrid vehicle owners pay an additional annual registration fee. This isn't temporary, it's built into the system, and the exact amount varies slightly by year and county. So if you're moving here with an EV or hybrid, this is something to factor into your ownership costs. 22. Utilities can feel very different than other states. Tennessee is largely powered by the TVA. The TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, this gives many areas relatively stable electricity price compared to national swings. However, housing age matters. Older homes may need more electrical upgrades. Some areas use natural gas. Others rely fully on electric systems. Any outside city limits, you'll often encounter septic systems instead of sewer, which isn't bad, but it's just different maintenance-wise. Understanding what a property uses before you buy prevents a lot of surprises after you move in. Daily convenience may vary more than people expect. Where you live in Tennessee really changes how convenient daily life feels. Some areas have everything within 5 minutes, others require planning. Grocery runs, medical appointments, specialty stores, emergency services. Tennessee has both fast-paced commercial living and deeply rural living. Neither is better, but they are very different. And knowing which one you're choosing shapes your experience far more than the house itself. So now this next section is really important, especially if you're coming from another state. Fire representation is now required before touring homes. As of recent changes, buyers in Tennessee are required to have a signed agreement in place before touring a home. That can look like a short-term touring agreement or a full buyer representation agreement. But either way, something must be signed before showings. This is very different from how many people bought homes in the past, and is very different from how many states operate. So if you're planning a house hunting trip, this is something you should know ahead of time so it doesn't feel awkward or rushed. And that brings me to number 26. Exclusive and non-exclusive agreements are not the same. In Tennessee, buyer representation can be exclusive or non-exclusive. Exclusive means you're working with one agent. Non-exclusive allows flexibility, but not every agent offers both, and not every situation works well with both. The most important part is not which one you choose. The important part is understanding which one you're signing and what it means, because this document governs who represents you, how compensation works, and how your purchase is handled. Now, before I wrap this up, I'm going to share 2 quick bonus things that out-of-state buyers are often surprised by when they move to Tennessee. First, Tennessee is a title state. That means most real estate closings here are handled by title companies, not real estate attorneys. There are attorneys involved behind the scenes, but your actual closing is typically done through a title company. For a lot of people relocated from outer states, that feels very different. It usually means faster timelines, fewer formal court-style steps, and a smoother closing process overall. But it does surprise people who are used to attorney-led transactions. Second, surveys are property-specific here. In many standard neighborhoods and subdivisions, a brand new survey isn't automatically required. A lot of times, boundary questions can be handled by locating existing pins instead of ordering a full new survey. So whether you're actually in need of one depends on the property, the land, and how it's being used, not just a blanket rule. I'm sharing this because it's another example how Tennessee real estate works a little differently than people expect, and why having someone local guiding you really matters. So, if you're thinking about moving to Tennessee, whether that's this year or sometime down the road, my biggest advice is this. Don't just look at the headlines. Don't just look at one city. And don't assume Tennessee works like wherever you're coming from. Where you choose to live here, How you buy here and what your daily life looks like here can feel completely different depending on the region, the type of home, and the stage of life you're in. If you're planning a move and want help figuring out where you actually fit inside Tennessee, I'd love to be a resource for you. You can reach out, comment below, or grab one of my guides and videos I've linked. And if you found this helpful, make sure you give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and check out other Tennessee videos on my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.